Right, so, and it looks like Gina from Houston. Welcome, Gina from Houston. What we're talking about right now is right before we get started, since you guys are some of the first to get on, I want to know what is one ambition you have and maybe one struggle, because we all have struggles, total transparency. I have my share of them too. And I want to be able to share and speak specifically to those so I can give you world-class tips, tools, and habits and really customize this content for you. So welcome, good morning. We're going to get started. I want to make sure I know who's here. I know Kimberly's here, Val, Alejandra, it looks like Rose and Gina. Let me know your name and where you're from. That would be amazing. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. And today's masterclass, it's 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you're joining either from here in the West Coast or around the country, and I know some people are joining from Canada, I really want to welcome you. And I want to make sure, we're going to do a little housekeeping first to make sure you're well prepared. I want to make sure that you ask a lot of questions, and I'm going to go through this and then I'll explain a little bit more about who I am. I want to make sure you ask a lot of questions. I want to make sure you have a pen in your workbook handy. Keep in mind though, the workbook that you have, I've shortened down the material a little bit because total transparency, people are getting a little overwhelmed with the content. And I want to make sure that you have clear, actionable steps, that you're not overwhelmed. So you take action after this rather than feel like it was so much, I don't know where to start, so I'm not going to do anything. Because we've all been there, right? Has anyone been there? Like you hear a lot of good stuff and then it gets overwhelming, you don't do anything. So I don't want that to happen. So keep in mind, your workbook will be helpful, but I will point and guide you. I've cut out some of it so you can have clear, actionable steps and it's not too much. So for those of you still joining, welcome. I want to know your first name and where you're from. That would be great. And also, I just ask that you maybe get a glass of water or coffee or tea or anything that you need, and also that you eliminate any distractions. And also, please give me your 100% attention. I am giving you mine. It looks like Christy is in the house. Hey, Christy. And also I want you to block out the next 60 minutes so you can really maximize your value, because this isn't just going to be interesting information. I hope it's interesting, but also these are going to be what I call collaborative sprint sessions. So I'm going to teach and then we're going to do. So I hope that makes sense. All right, so a little bit about me for anyone that doesn't know. I'm a certified high performance coach. That means that on top of my mental toughness, which is my intellectual property, I also am certified to coach in high performance habits, which is the next phase, something that we're not going to talk about today, but if you're interested, you can definitely private message me later. I'm the CEO and founder of The Zone Lab, and I'm a published author, God willing. My book's coming out in a couple of weeks, which a lot of you know. And recently I've spoken at Google Ventures, Autodesk, Bank of America, VMware, Microsoft, Pixar, to name a few. And I'm blown away by all the amazing women that I've had the opportunity to meet and train. So that's been incredible. And I am the mother of 3 student athletes who are, they're go-getters, but I call them go-givers because they're awesome. And I'm a runner and lover of the great outdoors. So as you guys are joining, please let me know where you're from and your first name. As people are joining a little bit late, that's totally fine. I also want to let you know what to expect from today's masterclass. So total transparency, there's going to be massive value. A lot of you that know me know that I talk really fast because I'm trying to pack a lot in and I want to respect your time. There's going to be a lot of value. You're going to have tools and you're going to have a really unique opportunity at the end. Like I mentioned, these are going to be collaborative sprint sessions. So what that means is I'm going to teach you information, get some information from you, and then you're going to actually do the work. So by the time you're done with this hour, you will have made progress. So I hope that makes sense. Now, raise your hand if you're still with me. Still with me? All right. All right, awesome. Gina and Joyce, thank you for raising your hand. If you ever have a question, please do throw it in the chat roll because I will definitely address that. So At the end, I want to let you know, first of all, this session's purely informational. I'm not selling you anything at the end, but I do want to let you know that I'm going to give you an opportunity to apply for a free, it says 15-minute, it's actually a 30-minute strategy call. In total transparency about those, I am looking to, what these calls are, they're mutual information, they're free coaching calls, but what I'm looking to do is find people to fill my coaching spaces and also my group. We're looking to grow this community, and a lot of my groups are full, but we're looking to form another one because so many people have asked. And what these sessions are, you'll learn more later, but they're just informational sessions so we can interview each other and see if it makes sense to go to the next step. So I want to be totally transparent about that. If you choose not to do it, totally fine. You just want to get the content out of this hour, that is totally 100% awesome too, and you'll get my deck. If you want the deck after this session, please let me know. Stay till the end and I'll be sure to give it to you. And also, as you're joining, let me know your name. I want to know your name and where you're from. And finally, there's 3 huge, I call them huge bonuses. Not so much that they're worth tons of money, but I'm going to give you tools, some of the same tools that I use with world-class athletes and business people to help them make progress and make consistent progress. I'm going to share them with you. And as I mentioned, I'm going to give the PowerPoint slide deck. You just have to remind me at the end. So, all right, it looks like Ruby's here from Canada, British Columbia. Awesome. Welcome, Ruby. All right, so we are going to jump right in. As you're listening, I still really want to know what some of your ambitions are and also a struggle. Because anytime, whether you're just starting and you have no idea what to start, you're just at that uncomfortable place where you know that there's more, but you don't know where to start, that's totally fine too. You're absolutely not alone. Or maybe you are already a high achiever and you're achieving these amazing things, either in your family or your business or have you, but you're looking at your next level of ambition. Wherever you are, we all have struggles, and I want to know what those are so I can address them and help you out with those. Looks like Carrie's hopping on from Los Angeles. Welcome. So what are the core objectives for today? Because I want to be very respectful of your time and make sure that you get the absolute most out of this. So I'm going to provide a structure. So in other words, I'm going to give you information, but I'm going to provide a structure so you can start to get some clarity. So we can go from cloudy to clear. In other words, what your next ambition in the long term, but also in the short term and in between. So I'm going to share some tools how world-class athletes and business people, the very same things that they use to refine their clarity, so they're very decisive and strategic about their steps. So that is going to be the structure for today, kind of to go from clarity to clear. And I'm also going to provide, we're going to work through a roadmap. So when you're done, you're going to have a piece of paper and you're like, oh, okay, I need to do this, this, and this. Because I'm the first to tell you that lack of clarity is the death of productivity. All right, I've seen it with myself and all my clients. And so this is really the foundation, the first step. And also it's really a core objective of mine to help you learn to believe, because that might sound a little nebulous, but what I mean is once you get clarity around what you want and deserve, it's vital that you believe that it's possible. And a lot of people know that, but they don't know how to do it. And so this is all foundational work for your next level of success. So I hope that makes sense. Structure, a roadmap in teaching you how to believe, because keep in mind, Olympians, when they start training for the Olympics, by the time they get there, they've been there a million times. They believe they're that person years before they actually achieve it. So I'm going to teach you how to do that. All right, are there any questions so far? Because as I mentioned, I'm working on talking slower, but I'm not very good at it. So I want to hear from you. I want to know, list in the chat roll one ambition. I know someone's starting a business. I know someone does not know where to start, which you're absolutely not alone. So, and I also want to know an ambition and struggle. Okay, so it's going to help me out, but it's also going to help other people out in the call. So I want to share this quote with you. A fundamental lack of belief in our own value, worth, and ability to achieve consistently tempers female ambition and holds women back. Now, at first I read that and I'm like, ouch, oh my gosh, that's awful. But the issue is that it's true. And this woman, Margie Worrell, she's a Forbes contributor and also the founder of Global Courage. And this statement really holds true. We talked about belief being the foundation. Well, there's certain ways that world-class performers believe, and they train themselves to believe this way. And so I want to make sure that we lay this foundation and get this out of the way, so what Margie's talking about isn't an issue for our future ambitions. Now, I'm not a statistics person, but I do need to throw this out here. There was a big study done by Gallup, and they were talking, it was just 2 years ago, about lost revenue in part because women are not happy or fully engaged in work. And in their work, and that could be in their, this in particular was in their corporate jobs, but it was upwards of $275 billion a year. So if you're just joining, welcome. I see a couple people coming in. I'm so glad that you're here. I want to know your name and where you're from, and while you're getting up to speed here. So this statistic is crazy, and it's just for corporate, but I want you to think, if you have your own business, or even if you're not working and you have the joy of being a full-time parent, what is this costing your company, your business, or your family if you're not happy and you're not fully engaged? Because I'll be the first to tell you that when this happens to us, our creativity, our productivity, and a lot of our self-efficacy is very low. And so we tend to not make as much progress as we could. So I want you to think about that one. Now, a lot of you are wondering, well, why am I so passionate about mental toughness? And a lot of people don't even know exactly what mental toughness is, which by the end of this, you definitely will. But I want to share a little bit about why I'm so passionate about mental toughness. The first thing, and this is the only embarrassing picture of myself that I'm going to share, but this was me. And one reason why I'm passionate about mental toughness is I was fortunate enough to ride horses when I was younger, but I had a little Palomino quarter horse that was a jack of all trades, but not really good at too much. And oh, Christy says it's a cool picture. Thanks, Christy. But everyone always told me that your horse isn't very good and you're never going to do very well. And I practiced 4 years for a national competition. And, you know, my dad told me that if you work hard and you focus and you're consistent, you know, you'll be fine. And so it took me 4 years to qualify, but I couldn't manage my thoughts and emotions. And by the time I got to this competition, even though I was capable and even though I could have placed in the top 5, so everyone told me, I couldn't manage my thoughts and emotions. And I really, that opportunity ended up in failure, and it was devastating. And it wasn't because I couldn't do it. So has anyone practiced relentlessly for someone and then had it be a big fail? Anyone? I guess it's just me. All right. I'd love for you to chime in because I really want to know. Yes, Karen says yes, definitely. Gina, great pick. Thank you so much. What I really want for you is to learn some of the habits so when you do practice that you can show up and deliver. This is so important. Here's another reason why I'm passionate about mental toughness. A couple years ago, well, a lot of you may not know this, but for about 6 years, I specialized in working with kids, young adults from 16 to about 22, and I still work with a handful of them. At that time, towards the end of that time, I got asked to speak at Google Ventures and sit on a panel. I was, total transparency, petrified. This gal on the far left, if that's how you're looking at this, Amy Bunzel, she's on the CEO staff of Autodesk. It was a joint event with Google Ventures. There's 50 of the most promising women in tech sitting in the audience. And then right when I got there, they said that they wanted to broadcast it globally. To be honest, when this first happened, I talked myself out of it. I said, oh no. I mean, has anyone ever been afraid of an opportunity or afraid of going after something? It's just, oh, I see a couple. Okay, the honest people are raising their hand. Okay, everyone's raising their hand. I was just giving you a bad time. So I almost turned this down. I said, Amy, when she contacted me to sit on this panel, I said, that's very flattering, but I work with kids. I don't work with women who build these big companies. And we went back and forth. And so finally thankfully she was persistent. And once I committed, I was all in. And that's what I really encourage for you, that once you commit, that you're all in. And I prepared, and I thought that I teach mental toughness for a living, so I might as well go after it. And I did. And you know what? In 2015, because I went there and I showed up and I knew how to be mentally tough, it blew up a whole nother arm of my business. And so I'm passionate about mental toughness because I didn't have it as a young person, and because I use it, and also because I don't just use it, my kids use it. So this is Ryan. He's my middle son. He's about 5'6", 130 pounds, soaking wet. He had a dream of being on the tennis team when he was 11. No one ever thought he could. You're too small. You'll never make it. Go D3 where they might actually want you, on and on. And so now he's on the men's tennis team, and he just got into the Haas School of Business at Berkeley. And so I'm not tooting my horn or his. I'm just saying that be careful what you listen to. And not only that, what we're going to talk about today is to develop the belief of what you want as possible and how to make consistent progress because of that belief. All right. Kimberly says, congrats. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Now, I also am passionate about mental toughness. That's me in the middle, in case you were wondering. Because I've had the honor of working with Kimberly Bryant's Black Girls Code. These girls were just coming out of a robotics class that I think I had no idea what they were talking about. So I honor them. I'm impressed by them because they were learning stuff that I didn't understand. But I've had the honor of delivering mental toughness for Black Girls Who Code to help them get clarity and get mentally tough around being a girl of color in tech. And so I've seen the transformation in them and how it shifts. And these are going to be the people that are going to be coming up with technology solutions and solving problems of the future. So mental toughness, I've seen it for adults, I've seen it for younger kids and young adults, and now I'm incredibly passionate about sharing it with women because we're mothers, right? And so, is everyone with me? Anyone have a question? No? Any questions so far? Okay, I'll keep an eye on the chat roll if you guys have any questions. If anyone's joining late, be sure and let me know name and where you're from. So a lot of you, I've heard a lot of this from other women, and I want to see if you relate to any of it. Now, this is what I've heard. I want to get off autopilot or survival mode and feel highly purposeful. Or I want to not merely exist, but I want to make a difference, and I need the confidence to believe it and to do it. Or finally, I've heard this a lot of times, is I want stronger clarity and I want a good next step. So does this resonate? Do any of these resonate with anyone? Anyone? All right. Okay. Yes, survival mode. Yes, I'm seeing a lot of yeses. So thank you for participating in that. So there's a couple things that are going to instantly stop us in our tracks for getting what we want and deserve. And the first one is doubt. And doubt is really the precursor to fear. And fear, if we don't know how to use it, is very disabling. So has anyone wanted something and then been a little doubtful? I mean, I know I have, especially at a lot of different levels of ambition. It happens, and it happens over and over again. So it's really important to learn how to deal with doubt. And then fear of failure. This is a big one. And here's the thing, a lot of people have it, but it's important that we know what to do with fear. So has anyone had an ambition, but where their mind goes is, what if I go after it, but it doesn't work out? Does that happen? Yeah, so it's definitely happened. Yeah, thank you for that. Looks like Kimberly and Annie. And I'm trying to see who this person is. I just see the name of her phone, but thank you for chiming in there. Now, the third one is not believing. So has anyone had an ambition, but they just they're going after it and they're going through the motions, but they don't quite believe that it's possible. Is anyone there? Yeah, so I want to let you know the main difference. It looks like Gina and Christy and Rose don't, yeah, and a lot of people are chiming in saying, sometimes I believe that I'm not good enough. And not believing, there's one main difference between the people who are world-class and those of us who are on the ascent. And that is around believing. When world-class athletes and Olympians, they decide to do something, they're all in. They are all in. And so it looks like Karen says, yes, I'm certified and still don't believe. So I want to tell you something, the good news and the bad news. The good news is you're normal. The not so good news is that this is the foundation to your success. So we're going to talk about in this session how to start believing that what you want is possible, because it's the foundation. And without having the solid foundation, your journey is going to be a lot harder than it needs to be. So I want you to imagine if you could be the CEO of your life. Now, what I mean by that is thinking and taking control of what you want and deserve, taking control of what you yearn for. And I want to ask, and I don't mean to be disingenuous, but it's not all about you. It's not all about me, but I want you to think about how will it affect those who matter most to you. Your partner, your kids, your colleagues, your friends, and sorry, I got a little ahead of myself, because here's the thing. What the research shows is that when we're performing at our highest level possible, we tend to be our most happy and joyous selves. So it's really important that it's not just for our joy and our happiness, which is incredibly important, but there's a ripple down effect. So it's incredibly important. Now, this slide used to say that I know you're not an Olympian or CEO, but then I had an Olympian and a CEO on my webinar. So I had to change it a little bit. So I said, maybe you are an Olympian or CEO and maybe you're not. So that way I don't make anybody upset. And also, this is something that I've cracked the code on for so many others already at VMware, Microsoft, Autodesk, Pixar, and all these companies that I have listed here. And I'm going to tell you what I've cracked the code on, and also really share what other people have to say before we get into my framework on how this all works. Now, this is a lot of text on a slide, but basically what Erin Smith said, who's the CEO of the Starters Club, she said that she had some tiny habits and tiny thoughts that once I helped her move through these, she had huge breakthroughs to help her get to the next level, which that was an honor because she was already doing amazing, but she was really stuck and frustrated where she was at. Now, becoming mentally tough, it's going to empower you to dream bigger. And a lot of people know that you're supposed to dream big, but a lot of people don't know how. Now, I don't know if anyone has any kids or smaller kids, or remember when your grown kids are a little younger, or maybe you were a kid. I would think you were a kid at some point, but I don't know for you, but my son Dan, who's now 22, he used to go to preschool every day with the cape on. And he was Superman, and he and his friends were going to, protect everyone in the playground, and they were going to fly around and make sure everyone was okay. And he thought he was a superhero. But at some point, we lose that belief in ourselves. When Dan was in preschool, he believed that he was a superhero, and he believed that he could fly around and help people. And at some point, because of how we were brought up, or maybe some past failures, or some different things, we kind of lose that ability to dream. And I want you to think about people like Martin Luther King. He didn't have a carefully crafted out plan for equality, right? He had a dream. People didn't show up by the hundreds of thousands to hear his plan. They showed up to hear his dream. So I really want to encourage you to start dreaming again outside of your current ambitions and start stepping into who you want to become and start dreaming big. If you think about Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, they didn't have a perfectly careful plan. What they had a dream about personal computing back in the late 70s, even when everyone thought that they were crazy. So I want you to start thinking about what your dream is. And mental toughness is going to help you to do that. And then also, people that are mentally tough, they have a plan. So they start with a dream and then they have a plan, something that you can really sink your hands into so you're clear, not just in the long term, meaning 12 months plus down the road, but you understand that where you need to improve in the next couple of months, and then you have a plan daily. So that way you are on task and feeling purposeful in your days. And then finally, mental toughness will empower you to achieve, because it will help you to be resilient when your next level of ambition gets difficult. And if anyone says that they have this perfect solution, that your next level of ambition is going to be a piece of cake, they'll get you there, not a problem, it might not be 100% truthful. And so mental toughness is really important to help you. Once you gain clarity, once you have a plan, it's the mental toughness. It's going to help you to be resilient and help you dust off and get back into the arena to make that consistent progress. All right, so does anyone have any questions? Because I'm going pretty fast. I still want to know, I've heard from a couple people what your ambitions are or what's important to you in the next 12 months. If you could start dropping in the chat roll, what is it? What are you dreaming about in the next 12 months? Not what are you for sure going to do in the next 12 months. I want to know what you're dreaming about in the next 12 months. And to give you an idea, and this could be something little, something small. When I first, 3 years ago, I was dreaming of having my first couple of clients. That was my big dream, so I could help people and make a living from it. And I thought that was a huge dream of mine. And last year it was to empower 10,000 women to be mentally tough. And you know what? We smashed it. And that was a dream. So I want to know what you are dreaming of. And it could be you dream of having a good conversation with a family member, or you dream of having a stronger relationship with someone that you're estranged from, or you dream of getting in the best shape of your life, or you dream of scaling your business. So start putting that in there, because as soon as you can start articulating what you are dreaming about, then you can start putting it into place. So what we're going to talk about next, unless anyone has any questions. Any questions? Talking too fast? You guys following me okay? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, I want to hear if you guys are following me and everything's moving along. Okay, you raised your hand. Okay, awesome. Glad that you're with me. All right, Lisa and Ruby, thanks so much. Good, okay, awesome. And Christy says, I dream of reaching 1 million women worldwide on my online training program. Holy moly, that is amazing. And so what I would challenge you to do, Christy, so whether you are aspiring to reach 1 million women, or whether you are aspiring to reach one person, I want you to be very aware of the value of one and your process to reaching even more. But it's important to start future casting yourself, and we're going to start thinking about that. So start thinking about, what does that look like, and what happens when you look into their eyes, and how does it make you feel when you start hearing from these women of how you've impacted them. So I want you to start thinking about what you're dreaming about and start living into that person today. All right. All right, Christy says, great point, the value of one. Yeah, sometimes we forget about that. Now, here's the clarity secret. Getting crystal clear on what's most important to you and why is the key to your personal success. So I want you to think about this. Think about it this way. If you were an Olympian, and you'll have to forgive all the sports analogies, but it's the world that I come from. If you were an Olympian or someone who aspired to be an Olympian, and let's say you were a young person around 15 years old, and the next 10 years you wanted to be an Olympian, you wouldn't say just, I want to be an Olympian. What you'd say is, if you're a track athlete who runs 400 meters, you'd say, I'm crystal clear. I need to run this time. I'm going to be on the podium for the 400 meters, and this is what it's going to be. So I want you to start going from vague down to clear. So, and getting crystal clear on what you want, what you yearn for, is really the first step. And it looks like we have one question coming in, and it's from Trish. I have a question. Certain people or situations at work make me very nervous and are worried. How can I gain more control in these moments so I can do my absolute best consistently? Well, we're talking about clarity. And so I think the first step would to get crystal clear would be to get crystal clear on what you want the outcome to be. All right, I hope that makes sense. And let me know too, keep the questions coming. All right, so the second phase of a mindset shift is confidence. Now, confidence is incredibly important because it's going to keep you going. The difference between world-class performers and everyone else is that they are remarkably confident, and when they start to pull back in their confidence, they surround themselves by people, they have triggers, they have things to get them back on track. And here's a confidence secret. I like talking about fear a lot, and you'll see why. So looking fear in the face and asking it to stand with you can be your biggest source of confidence. Now, has anyone, we talked earlier on, has anyone been afraid to take the next step, afraid to ask for help? And so I want to know, has anyone made a big ask in the last 4 to 6 months? All right, if not, it's time. And a lot of times, yeah, I see a lot of hands. Christy, thanks for raising your hand. And it looks like Karen says, I understand, and in my situation, I need to ask more questions of coworkers and my boss. Now, this is really important because if you're confident in who you are, you're going to be more likely to get the help that you need. And fear is something that I go really deep into. We're not going to talk about it a lot on this call, but it's a huge component. I want you to just leave this thought with you that we tend to push fear away. So I'm afraid to talk to my boss because of what he might think, or I'm afraid to talk to my colleagues. But it's important, rather than say, don't worry about it, it'll be fine, just pull it closer and think, what am I afraid of? So why am I fearful of talking to my boss? And it might be that you might feel judged. I'm just saying, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. But you can say, okay, then it's important to take control. In other words, so I don't feel judged, what do I need to do? You know, so it might be to do your research or get your facts kind of in line and plan out your conversation or what have you. So there's a lot that we can learn from fear, and people that are highly confident, they know how to use fear as their ally. All right, and then the third phase is control. Now, control is incredibly important because, as you're going to learn, we can take control of our ambitions. And there's certain ways that world-class performers, that we can learn from them, that we can take control too. And when it comes to the short term, it's very important that we do things that we have control over. So in the long term, we started talking about dreaming. So I want you to start thinking about what your biggest dream is. Now, I know Christy threw out there to inspire 1 million women and to get them on board and learning from her and onto her course. And so I want to know, what are you dreaming about? So that's off into the future, but then start taking control in the immediate term, in the day-to-day and the week-to-week. So for example, Christy, I'm going to put you in the hot seat. I want to know if you going to inspire 1 million women. So what progress that you have control over are you going to make this week? So, all right. So think about that. Feel free to post it. Now, here's a control secret. Committing to consistent action and improving is vital to your long-term success. So has anyone heard of the fable, The Tortoise and the Hare? Is it just me? Nope. Yes? Okay, awesome. Looks like Rose and Christy, everyone's raising their hand. Awesome. So consistent progress always wins. And so what's important in your days and in your weeks, that you're committed to consistent action. All those little tiny steps. So in other words, if anyone's been to a baseball game before, you know those little steps, if you start at the bottom, there's a million of them going up to the top. But you know what? If you go up them, even if you go up them slow, you're eventually going to get there. And what happens if you get tired and you just stop? You're never going to reach the top. So it's important to get committed to consistent progress. Now, I know you can have more. And you might be wondering why I know this about you. Well, here's the thing. The science says so. I've had the honor, since my work is applied, meaning I work with people one-on-one in groups and through my online course, I lean on a lot of these epic researchers because they've dedicated their time to proving that you can have more, and that it's less about talent and it's more about how you practice, how gritty you are, and also you're practicing deliberately. And so with mindset, it has to do with having a growth versus a fixed mindset. This is very tied into believing. Okay, that's really important. And talent is overrated. Jeff Colvin looks at the examples of some of the world's most successful people, and it really has not a whole lot to do with talent. A little bit with circumstances, but a lot more with who you surround yourself with and how you're willing to work consistently. And with grit and peak, I've been so blessed to check in with Anders Ericsson about once a quarter. He spent the last 35 years, he's the known expert on expertise. And he's really proven that if we practice and practice in a certain way, that we're really limitless. And so the science says so, and I really believe in you 100%. And I don't know if you noticed, I was fortunate enough to interview him last year, and I know he's a genius because I always joke that he has so many papers behind him. He is a genius scientist that he has really spent his whole life proving what I'm talking to you about today. So don't just take my word for it. What I want to know right now is what is important that you must make progress on this year. And I don't mean between now and the end of the calendar year. I mean in the next 12 months. And so Christy says, so awesome that you have direct contact with Anders. Yeah, I'm really, really excited about that and feel really honored. He travels around the world. I give him a bad time. I call it his genius conferences. But I want to know, getting back to us, what is most important to you that you must make progress on this year? And I want to know, what is your Olympics? Again, it could be something, it can be big or small, because to you, it's no less important than it is to an Olympian. So I want to know. Rose says, hire 10 contractors to run workshops in 10 states the next 12 months. I love that. Rose, thank you for adding that. Getting back into medical coding from Karen. I want to complete my real estate broker's license. Okay, awesome. These are huge things, and these are your Olympics. A lot of times, I really want to make sure that you don't belittle your ambitions. These things are so, so important. So we're going to talk about that. I want to know why these things are so important to you. So Rose, you want to hire 10 contractors to run workshops in 10 states the next 12 months. The next thing is to start thinking about why that's important. Okay, I want to keep hearing. I've heard from 3 or 4 of you, so I want you guys to keep adding to this so I can understand. And also too, it's going to help you articulate it, and it's also going to help everyone else on the call. So I want to know, what is your Olympics? What is most important to you in the next 12 months? And if you want to know how, so if you want to know how to make progress towards this means, that's what I mean. We're going to get applied and we're going to get after it. So this is the baby going out in the bathwater. So what this pictures really means is I don't normally share my entire framework on a call. It's part of my one-on-one and group coaching that I use with my world-class athletes, business people, and with people just like me and you as well. But I wanted to make sure you at least understood it. So at any point, I'm going to run through it. I'm going to give you a 10,000-foot view, and then I'm going to show you the next step. So does that make sense? I'm going to give you a lot of information, but then we're going to pull back so you know what to do next. All right? Is everyone with me? Raise your hand. Say, I'm here. Okay, I see Rose, I see hands raised, Gina, Ruby. Okay, awesome. Looks like Christy and Trish and Judy. Okay, great. All right, so I want you to hold on to your seats. There's a lot to cover in a short amount of time, but one thing I can guarantee is that we are gonna make progress. All right, let me just read. There's a couple more comments coming in. Ruby, get my health back and build my strength. Annie, to put fear to the side, write my ideas down on paper, and be true to myself and my talent over the next 1 month. Awesome. All right, so let's get going. If I can switch the slide, here we go. So here's my entire framework. Now, I'm so excited about this because this is what my book is about that's coming out in about 5 weeks. And so this, when I take people through this one-on-one or in a group, it's 4 months of coaching. So I'm not going to go through it in detail, but I want you to understand it because it's the building blocks of mental toughness, which really culminates in confidence. So in other words, I teach people how to be zoned in, and not to oversimplify, but there's a clarity piece, which we're going to focus on today. And then there's the mindset piece. And so just to let you know, and so I'm going to go over the steps, and then we're going to take a step back, and then we're going to hop on the first lily pad. In other words, take the first stepping stone of how to get started. So this is important to me because I want you to understand exactly what mental toughness is, why it's important to you, which I think you, hopefully if I've done my job, you understand that now, but I want you at least basically to understand what the components of mental toughness is or what it means to be zoned in. So the Z in zoned in, excuse me, has to do with no excuses. And a lot of people say, well, that sounds a little harsh. It's not meant to sound harsh. What it has to do with is accountability. You know, your next level of ambitions, people that have achieved great things never do it alone. And it's very important to set up an accountability structure for yourself. And I've seen that for myself, for my clients, the people in my global and local workshops, what have you. And it's also proven in science. Now, also the second step, or the O in zoned in, it has to do with objectives. It's just kind of another name for goals, but it's really important to understand that there's different periods of time for different types of goals. And if we get them mixed up, they're less likely to happen, and that's going to be discouraging. So do you remember when we talked about dreaming big? So that's your long-term objective. So in other words, 12 months away or even longer. And so those we don't really have a whole lot of control over. So we kind of put those in a box like they're a little gift, and we put them over there, and we proceed as if success is inevitable. Maybe you just want clarity on what your purpose is, and that's fine. You have to proceed as if that clarity, as if you have that clarity, as if you will have it at the end of those 12 months. Maybe you want to have those 10 speaking engagements in 10 different states. You have to proceed as if that's already going to happen. And then in the near term, we have control over those. And there's some intermediate planning that we do as well. But the accountability and the planning is really the first portion. All right, Christy says, love, proceed as if it's already happened. Now, the second part is noteworthy focus. So in other words, how to direct our mind. And this is incredibly important in the long term because there's a lot of research being done now on positivity and optimism. If you follow Marty Seligman et al., he does a lot of work. So it has to do with manifestation and optimism. So in the long term, it's very important that we set our sights and consistently believe and consistently tell ourselves that what we want is possible. And then in the near term, when we take control, it's important that we're laser focused and set intentions about what we're working on every day. So for example, excuse me, for getting 10 speakers in 10 states, you figure out what is most important that I need to do today. It might be to make 5 phone calls. Block out that time, get laser focused, put a sign on your door, do not disturb unless someone's bleeding. No, I'm just kidding. But do not disturb, and knock out those calls, get laser focused on what's most important. And I really recommend that you do that the first 2 hours of the day. Take the first 2 hours, no emails, no phone calls, no meetings, no nothing. and get laser focused on what's most important to you to make progress. So don't get me started down that like rabbit hole. We'll be here all day talking about that. So I hope that served you. Emotional control, emotions drive our behavior. So it's very important that we start to guide our emotions. So in other words, a lot of times when we have emotions, they're knee-jerk reactions to things. Someone says something mean, it makes me sad. I called someone to be on a podcast, they rejected me. That actually happened. But I have a lot more good stories. But I can choose. Initially, rejection, it makes me feel doubtful. But I feel doubtful, but I can choose how I move forward. I'm like, ouch, that emotion makes me doubtful. But then I ask myself, how do I choose to feel about this? Do I choose to learn? Do I choose to learn from this experience and think maybe I didn't explain myself well enough? So emotional control is very, very important. So what I really want to challenge you to do is to start regulating your emotions and choosing where you put them, and also start choosing optimism over some of the other negative emotions. And another day, we'll talk about exactly how to do that. And then dialogue is our self-talk. What we say to ourselves over and over again, we tend to believe. And it's important what we say. And it's important also who we converse with the most. But it's incredibly important what we say to ourselves over and over again. It's important to start speaking to ourselves in an empathetic and encouraging and optimistic way. Imagery training, it's a world-class tool that high-level athletes use to practice when they're not physically there. And this is incredibly important. What it does is it accelerates your progress. So, and then finally, neutralizing errors. This actually needs to be changed to neutralizing and utilizing errors, because errors are vital and they're really important to learn from. World-class athletes, they know if they lose a race or if something happens, they know what to do with those errors. They feel bad about it, they feel it, and then they decide to move on. And so that's what being resilient is all about, is learning how to neutralize and utilize errors. So it looks like Annie says, I love this framework. Okay, awesome. This is what 200 and some odd pages of my book talks about. And like I said, I coach people through this in 4 months. So I apologize for blasting through it in a few minutes, but I wanted you to have a 10,000 foot view before we really get into how you're going to take the next steps. Does anyone have any questions at this point? And if you want to learn more, you're probably on my list. If you're on the webinar, you'll have VIP access right when my book comes out. But I'm glad to answer any questions. Is everyone still with me? You ready to take action? Okay. Oh, I see a lot of hands. Looks like Rose, Karen. Okay. There's a bunch more people on here. You guys with me? You're awake? Okay. Awesome. Okay. Now, there's something in my course and what I use for my one-on-one, my group clients, and it's called the Success Builder. It's probably not on page 8, or maybe it is on page 8. I don't know. I apologize. The workbook is a little cattywampus and out of order now, because I was getting more focused in this webinar. And so if you have the packet, I want you to pull it out. And I wanted to make sure that you have this. So it looks like, okay, a lot of people are ready. They're saying ready. Awesome. So we were talking, some of this work you've already done. Okay. And before, we have one person raising their hand. Okay. Well, let me know if you have any questions. I see a couple of people raising their hand. So I hope there's no confusion. Now with this, we've already talked about your long-term dream or ambition. And I want you to write that on the top left where it says A, it says long-term objective. And if you don't have this particular form, the Success Builder, excuse me, that is 100% okay. What I want you to do is just write on a piece of paper and you can download it later. So write your long-term ambition down. And the next thing that's really important, and you don't have to fill this out right now, but is your intermediate term objectives. So in other words, if you want to inspire 1 million women, like Christy, so what do you need to improve? So you're not going to necessarily have 100% control of this, but you'll have some control. So what do you need to do in the next 2 to 6 months? And it usually has to do with what mindset skill, and then also what do you physically need to learn. So maybe you need to become a better speaker, or maybe you, like for me, I just went to 4 days of thought leadership training, and then in a week I'm heading out to learn about become a dynamic speaker. I mean, those are 2 things that I really need to learn about. So those are mine. But I want to know in the next 2 to 6 months what's most important for you, and that's what you fill in for your intermediate term objectives. So I have one question coming in that I want to make sure and answer. Okay, hang on to that question because I think I'm going to answer that. Uh-oh. Hang on. We're getting a little, okay, here we go. So those are your intermediate term objectives. I want you to have one skill that you need to improve, like public speaking, thought leadership. Maybe you want to get in the best shape of your life. So you might need to get a trainer or educate yourself on fitness or nutrition or what have you. So what do you need to improve upon? And then what's one mindset skill? So it might be your self-talk. It might be to be more confident, might be conquering doubt or what have you. So I want to know what are the 2 things that you need to improve upon. And then in the short term, I want you on the sheet to fill in what do you absolutely have control over in the next 7 days that's most important for you to make progress. So in other words, if you guys could let me know what's one thing that you have control over that you can do, that you have progress. So those are going to go, and it looks like F and G, so short-term objectives. So for, if you want to have 10 speakers in 10 states, what do you have control over that you need to do to start getting that in place? So Karen says, I am post-op, so I need to stay in bed. So that is perfect. So for Karen, what her short-term objectives are is to heal. And one way she can heal is to stay in bed. You might have to get help, and you have to think about, what do you need to do so you can stay in bed and heal? Because a lot of times we have to take a step back and take care of ourselves. So that is excellent. I want to know, what do you have control over that is your next best move in the next 7 days? Your most important move that you have to do to make control over, to make progress towards your long-term dream. So for me, I'll give an example. I'm reaching out to today and tomorrow to 5 podcasts to promote my book. And then also I have to shoot videos on influence and persuasion mastery. So those are just things that I need to do this week. So anyone else, I want to know next steps. What do you have control over this week that you must do that's most important to move towards your long-term ambition? So if you could let me know about that, it's going to help me. It's going to help everyone else. And it's also going to help you because you'll be articulating it. Looks like Rose says, I need to videotape my workshop. Okay, perfect. And a lot of times, videotaping, I don't know, I have learned to like it, but I did not like it in the beginning. But Rose says, I need to videotape my workshop that I can do so I can teach other ones to do it. Perfectly. So what I want to know is, when are you going to do it? And where are you going to do it? And block that into your calendar like you're making an appointment with your best friend or with a really important doctor's appointment. We need to start raising the necessity on these short-term objectives and putting a timeline and blocking it in our calendar. All right? And so it looks like Trish, yep, block time in my calendar. Rose, November 1st at Urban League in West Palm. Awesome. So the next thing with this, and you will have this success builder to take with you, I want you to really fill in why these long-term objectives, why this dream, why what you yearn for is so important to you. And that's what you write in section, I'm trying to see, it looks like B. So make sure you fill that in there. And then the things that you need to take action on this week, you can fill it in during that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday through Sunday. So I want you to fill this in, to paste it up somewhere, because it's very important that we write things down and we see it. And if you want to double whammy this thing, show it to someone and commit to someone. And that it's been proven in science that that will make it more likely that you'll get it done. And it's also important to figure out, what are your roadblocks? In other words, on your march to staying in bed, what are roadblocks? Well, there's probably people that need stuff from you. So maybe people need things from you. Or if you need to videotape, maybe you don't have a place to videotape. What are the things that are getting in the way? Because it's really been proven that if we can forecast our challenges, we can get around the mountain a lot easier than if we get butted up against it. You guys following? Okay, so I want to understand, what are some of the roadblocks that you're up against? And then also, what are some of the solutions? So if your main objective and the best thing that you have control over this week is to rest in bed, then think of a solution if other people need things from you. If you want to make the videotape, but you don't have a studio, you don't have a camera, what's the solution to that? That's really important. And then finally, your affirmations. Things that you know about yourself for sure, or things that you wish that you knew, or that you wish were coming to life. These typically start with I can, I will, or I am. So I am capable of influencing 1 million women. I will hold 10 trainings in 10 states in 12 months. So I want you to start filling those out. Again, you don't have to do it right now, but I would recommend that you do it right after this call. And this is something that I want you to socialize. Who's going to fill it out? Who's going to socialize it? If you want it to happen, this is something that world-class athletes and business people do. So maybe we're in the top 1%, maybe we're not, but who sees the value of start taking on some of their habits and some of their mindset? Okay, awesome. Christy and Annie, and okay, thank you. All right. So I want to know who's in to be the CEO at my life, because, and this, let me tell you what this means. A lot of people that I talk to, they feel like they're being blown around like a plastic bag. In other words, they're really busy, but it's kind of random, and they don't feel like they're in control of their days. They know that there's something more, and maybe it's clear to them, maybe it's not, but they don't feel like they're in control. So I'm trying to build an army of women who are really, what I can say, CEOs of their life. And it starts with the planning, and it starts with the mindset. So I have a question for you. Will you be one of the 100,000 women who are zoned in and who are the CEOs of their life? And that's really what I want to know. And all right, I see some hands coming up. Okay, thanks. Awesome. And so today we just started with clarity. It's the first piece. We need to be crystal clear on where we are going. So, and now you also by now should understand what it means to be zoned in, so you can completely lay the foundation of being mentally tough, and how to lay the foundation to make clear and measurable progress to your next big win. Now, it's really time to bring this content to life. As I promised, I'm opening up 20, and I said 15-minute discovery sessions, one-on-ones, but they're really 30 minutes. And I'm opening up an application for people to apply with me. It looks like Trish says, count me in. That's me. Awesome. So let me know too if you have any questions at this point, if this sounds amazing to you, because I want to be a co-CEO with you. And as many times as people said, no, don't work with people one-on-one, don't do small groups, you can scale doing other things. I love seeing the individual transformation in people and in really small groups. And so that's why I really want to get to know you. I want to bring this content to life and see if I can help in any way. But here's what you need to know. It's not for everyone. Now, for anyone that's worked with me before, a coaching relationship, I'm your biggest cheerleader, but I'm also going to push you. I'm also going to challenge you. So in this session, the first session, I'm just going to take information. I just want to know how you're doing, what your challenges are. I'm not selling a thing, but I want to let you know that if you are content, meaning in your current ambitions, and you're not striving for more, that's totally fine. There's no judgment. I'm just saying that this session probably isn't for you. If you're unwilling or unable to make clear and measurable progress and put in the work, then again, that's totally fine. We're at different stages of our lives, but it's just not for you. Maybe the timing's just not right. And if your sense of urgency is low, meaning like, nah, it'll be maybe good someday, but it doesn't matter if it's not today, then again, that's okay, but probably the session is not going to be right for you right now. But if you're ready, who's ready? If you're ready, then this session is for you. If you're willing and capable now to put in the work, it is absolutely for you. So it looks like too, you can hop in, we have in the chat box where you can sign up for this session, and they're going kind of quickly. I'm watching them tick down. Now, I also want to know if your sense of urgency is a 10, it's absolutely for you. So is there anyone who has a sense of urgency of a 10? Meaning like, I've floated around long enough and I've struggled with this and had that uncomfortable feeling for long enough and I'm ready. Is anyone? Okay, looks like Judy. I have a lot of 10s coming in. Awesome. Now, again, I want to be 100% transparent. Looks like Annie's raising her hand. Awesome. Transparent and that sharing what some other women have said. Now, there's a lot of words on these slides, but basically what the first woman said is that she now has a clear roadmap and she has the confidence to make progress. And a lot of these are based on confidence. The second one has to do with negative thoughts and emotions. And after this short time, learn the basic tools to be more confident. And also understanding the framework and how this can really help you next level your career and your next level of joy in what you're doing. So I really am passionate about making this content real for you. And I want you to be decisive. And in order to reach your next level ambition and joy, it's incredibly important that you're decisive. And these sessions are ticking away. I'm only doing 20 because I have a limited amount of time and resources for this. I hope you are one of those. There's absolutely, this is just a discovery session to understand if you're going to be a good fit for the programs that we are opening up in the next 1 to 2 weeks. So it looks like Judy, yes, count me in. Karen, awesome. And it looks like schedule by September 28th. Well, that's not going to work so well. I want you to schedule in the next 3 days because they will probably be full in the next 48 hours, but I want to be sure that you schedule them then. All right, so next steps, submit an application at SherylKline.com/discovery. You'll be getting some information from me. You just need to follow the instructions in that email. And I want to know, I'm going to stay on a couple extra minutes. Does anyone have any questions as to what are these sessions about? How will it help you? Why should you do it? Anyone have any questions? No? Does anyone still want the bonuses? Okay, awesome. Let me let you know what those are. The 2 bonuses are, they're worth over $200, and it's not necessarily the money, but it's really the value. The first one is the Confidence Accelerator video series. So this is going to be easy videos that you can watch so you can next level your confidence so you can make some progress towards what you want and deserve. And these I bundle up and sell. And I want to give them to you for free for everyone that schedules a discovery session. And then finally, on the VIP list and have first access to my book, which is due out, I always say, God willing, in 5 weeks. And I really want to know, does anyone, signing up for session now, Chandra, awesome. Yes, count me in. Okay, I am so excited for this because this is what lights me up. I feel like I am just the catalyst because I feel like you all have such a special light in you. And a lot of times, either lack of clarity or a slight lack or not having I don't want to say lack, but lack of clarity and not having the tools to be resilient is what holds us back from our best. And it's just foundational. It's foundational work. It's the first step that I look forward to mapping this next level of success out with you. Rose, I'm signing up as well. Awesome. So I want to open up. Thank you for staying with me a couple minutes late. Excuse me, does anyone have questions? I'm taking any questions. Questions, anyone? Thanks, it was awesome. You are so welcome. All right, I'm gonna stay on a couple minutes extra. Go ahead and grab, I think we have 3 or 4 spots left. for these discovery sessions. I super appreciate it. I'm going to stay on a couple extra minutes if you guys have any questions. Here's to you being amazing. I want to honor you for everything that you have done to this point, and it would be my true honor to help you going forward. And I have a couple questions coming in. What suggestions can you offer a person who wants to stay on track with their goals because of chronic illness? It becomes a struggle. That is really, that is a tough question, and I wish I had an easy answer, but I would recommend that you go through the Success Builder and think about what it is that's really important to you, and you may have to adjust your goals for that pain, and it might be getting help with that. But I'm glad to have a conversation with you about that. All right. Any other questions? I'm staying on for a couple more minutes. Thank you. Okay, awesome. I'm getting lots of thank yous. Thanks so much for being here. I'll be on with you another couple minutes, and I look forward to having this strategy session with you, having you join our community, and here's to your continued success. Again, please, please take a moment to honor where you are and all the amazing things that you've done, and I look forward to hopping in with you and making this content real and being with you on your journey going forward if it's something that's right for you. Thanks so much. I look forward to seeing you on your discovery session. It looks like Annie's signing up. Awesome. There's 2 left. Grab them while you can. There's a couple left. I can't wait to meet you and hear more about you and to your continued success. I'm going to hang out with you for a few minutes if anyone has any continued questions, but I'll let you get on with your day. Here's to you being amazing. Thanks so much.